Alex Bassfield, and I'd like to welcome you to a video about my Quilcom SIM-REED synthesizer plugin. The SIM-REED is not targeted towards a specific instrument, but rather a range of timbres that can be produced by reed-driven woodwind instruments. As you saw in the introduction slideshow, there are many types of reed-driven woodwind instruments, and the music to that was demonstrating some of the timbres you can get from the SIM-REED. To record that, there were 4 instances of the plugin playing as a so-called consort, which is a group of instruments. The presets I've provided give an indication of the type of instrument sound which you can adapt to your needs. To give you a quick overview of the system, we have a reed designer, so we can actually influence the characteristics of the excitation pulses from the reed. Then we have a bore designer, which takes those impulses and shapes the timbre accordingly. We have pitch control here, and we have an expression panel, vibrato, and a general tone control, and the option to add a growl where the player will hum whilst actually blowing into the instrument. So first off, I'll talk about the reed designer panel. So I've made the main envelope generator available, since we're not targeting a specific instrument, and these values are geared towards this type of instrument. We have the option to bend the pitch from the envelope generator. And a filter sweep at the start of the attack. Or we could have both. We can control the amount of the player's air that we hear. The ratio knob sets the amount of time of the reed being open to close, so it's the ratio of open to close, and this is applies more to a double reed than a single reed instrument. The shape knob aims to provide a range of timbres from the reed pulse based on the length, width and shape of the reed, which will have some effect on the final result. So I'll turn the balance down, I'll describe that later. Now, a reed has its own resonant frequency, which is quite high, and this adds a couple of grains to the sound when it opens and closes. So here we can set the frequency of those 2 grains, and this will have a bearing on the final result too. So now I'll talk a little bit about the bore designer. Essentially there are 2 types of bore. One is a cylindrical parallel, and the other is conical. And rather giving you a switch, I've provided a a macro knob to morph between the two sounds. The cylinder will have emphasis on the odd harmonics. And the conical will have all the harmonics present. At the output end of the bore or tube, there may be a bell present or not. So this is a macro that morphs between no bell and a large wide bell. The fundamental pitch of the instrument is the most reflected, which operates feedback to the reed to help open and close the reed in the correct time. As a result, the fundamental output from the instrument is generally reduced and lower than the higher harmonics. So I've provided a knob to set the fundamental individually. The design of some instruments will enable you to hear some of the reed sound itself, and on other instruments this is more subdued. So the balance between the reed sound and the bore sound can be set with this knob. In the same way that we can set the balance between the reed sound and the bore sound, we can also set the emphasis of the grains which I mentioned earlier, which are produced by the reed, and we do that with the bore knob. Acoustic instruments have formants, which are areas of the harmonic spectrum which are more emphasized than others, and this, in the case of a reed woodwind instrument, is down mainly to the design and construction material of the instrument. This is normally quite a subtle effect, and we can set the level of the influence of those formants with the level knob. So I'll turn that up now so you can hear what these other two knobs do. The range knob is a macro that controls not only the formant frequencies but the spread of frequencies. The resonance knob sets the bandwidth of the formants and their resonance. And that, of course, is a very extreme setting, so you would turn the level down considerably. So now I'll talk about the pitch control panel. The pitch bend wheel has two modes. One is portamento, which is a smooth slide, and the other one is glissando. You can also initiate a slide between two notes when you play legato. So here we have no slide. We can set a fixed rate, which can be changed on the knob. We can also have glissando for that. We can also choose continuous controller number 5, CC5, which I can't demonstrate because I haven't got an electronic wind instrument, but apparently that's the one that is used to set the portamento time. My personal favourite is to use velocity. So at lower velocity levels, the portamento or glissando will be slower, and at higher velocity levels it will be faster, and above a certain velocity there will be no slide. Now the very best players will pretty much always hit the right note at the very start, but very often on some instruments especially, it's very difficult to get that initial pitch correct. So we have a correction time and a random pitch control. I'll make this more extreme so you can hear the effect. And we can have no correction. Now I'll talk about the expression panel. Expression can affect volume and timbre. The range of expression available to the player is much wider on open reed instruments. Capped reed instruments, it's just basically a case of how hard you blow. The expression parameter can be input either from a continuous controller, a CC number, and here I've got number 1, which is for the mod wheel. You could have number 2 for breath and so on, breath controller. And if you don't have a CC or mod wheel available, you can switch in the knob. At this point I should mention that all the knobs on the synth can be automated, so you can fine-tune any parameter or expression that you wish to. I designed the instrument so that you have potentially a very wide range of expression which may not be suitable for some instruments, so you can set the minimum and maximum value that will be achieved when you supply a control signal. So this is the preset, and I'll go to maximum and minimum full values. Complete silence at the start. And as you can hear, that's a very wide range, too wide for most instruments. Now there's a tendency for the instrument to go sharper at higher pressures. This can be corrected by a good player with an exposed reed, but with a capped reed there's no real way to compensate for it. So here we can set the amount of sharpening that occurs when the CC value is above about halfway. So you can set that amount of sharpening with the sharpen control, so let's make it extreme. So now I'll talk about the vibrato controls. The term vibrato here is in classical music terms rather than just frequency modulation. So amplitude modulation or tremolo is present, and also a small amount of frequency modulation. So we can introduce the vibrato with a delay and a fade in, and we can set the frequency, which actually measured from performances is around an average of 4.6 Hertz. And if we have knob selected here, we can set the amount. Or we can control it with aftertouch if your keyboard has it, or with a CC number. When we're using a controller, and here I've got CC1 mod wheel selected, these controls are still active, so if you just want to use the mod wheel or CC number without a delay and fade in, you can set these to 0. If you want to control the vibrato manually, you can set the mod wheel for expression here, switch in knob, and then set that to minimum, and then you can use the mod wheel for manual vibrato. Like that. Here we have a panel for controlling the tone and adding some growl. The brightness control is pitch track, so it affects all the sounds equally. We can control the amount of growl either with a knob, with a continuous controller, or with aftertouch, and the min knob sets the value at which the growl starts. So that's my Quilcom SIM-REED for you. There's lots more details in the user guide and lots of background information in the background info folder. So I hope you have a bit of fun with it, and I'm going to play you out with a little short piece I played using a sound like a duduk, which is often played in pairs, one instrument being a drone with circular breathing, and the other one playing a melody line. So until the next time, bye!